Namaste, everyone, and welcome to Anchor the Light. And as we've said in the previous video, we have, in preparation for Wesak, we're dividing the Anchor the Light into three parts. Part one is Four Noble Truths, like an overview, and then Eightfold Path number one, which is right viewpoint and knowledge. So here we're going to be focusing on right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and the part three is going to be 6, 7, 8. And then the significance of the Wesak Festival in more detail. So before we start, let's ask for blessings to the Divine Supreme God, Divine Father, Mother, to all the spiritual elders, holy masters, to all the saints of all traditions, archangels, holy angels, spiritual helpers, to my teacher, Master Chokok Sui Mahaguju Meiling, to the Lord Christ, to the Lord Buddha, thank you for your blessings in full faith. And so it is. Okay. So I hope you watched the first one. And again, this is for the ones who, for whatever reason, you cannot join us for the full 7-day purification. At least we want to make sure to prepare you as much as we can for the downpouring of spiritual energy and in a few days for the Wesak Festival, which is the next week, the Tuesday here in the United States. Okay, so here we go. After right viewpoint, you have right thoughts, right speech, right action. So let's cover a little bit on right thoughts. The Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make our world. So once you understand this in more detail, you get to realize that everything starts with a thought, an idea. And as we dive deeper into energy, it's even more apparent. So every thought, every feeling creates what is called a thought form. And the example we always use, and you've done this with us before, so we'll just repeat it to you. So rub your hands together, press the center of your palms, okay? Just breathe, try to feel energy in your palms, and just go like this. You call this sensitizing our hands. All right, now, so if you go like this, feel about the same. Now, if you look at one palm and you just say apple, apple, apple. And simultaneously think of an apple that's in your hand and recall a time when you ate one, whether you like it or not. Okay, compare both hands. You will notice this one feels heavier, a little more substance to it. In fact, you can take this hand and just try to feel your palm, see if you feel something. And most of you, when you do this, you feel like a heaviness or like a shape. Now go like this, say disintegrate. So what happened? Notice about the same. If you go like this, you don't feel anything. So essentially what happened is, every time we think or feel something, the aura or the environment is utilized by the soul to gather this material to create a form. And since it starts with a thought, we call it thought form. Okay? Now, oftentimes, not all the time, but maybe 89% of the time, when you think of something, there's a certain emotion attached to it. So it's made of mental and emotional substance. However, we just simplify it and call it a thought form. Now, this thought form works like this. We think of something, it's like a hologram in the mental world. Just imagine this world of thoughts. Let's say you say, oh, I want a new car. So that thought is just like a hologram of a car. And then the more you think about it, maybe once a day, once every 4 or 5 days, you're feeding it, you're giving it more energy. And then from there, a little bit of feeling goes with it. So from the mental world, it's already slightly sliding down to the emotional world. It's still pretty subtle. People can see it. Now, instead of sensing what you're thinking, they go, I kind of feel like every time you look at a car, I can feel you're a little excited about it. Right? So it goes from the mental world to the emotional world. And at some point, your speech pattern, your intonation, every time you see a new car, it's like, you get a little excited. So it's moving from the mental world, emotional world, and then you start, searching the web for it. You go on websites. And then you go, I still have an hour before I get home. Maybe I'll drop by a car dealership. I won't buy it. I'm just looking. Yeah, you're fooling yourself. Because the more you get into it, more thought, more feeling, and now action, It's going from the mental world. Now you're acting on it. And before you know it, you're signing a check or purchasing it. It's in your driveway. That's what you call materialization. So, as the Buddha said, everything starts with our thoughts. That's what he meant. Now, why is that important? As my teacher always says, Master Choksi says, one of the ways to understanding planting and harvesting is we plant in the inner world with our thoughts and feelings. We harvest it with our actions and the things we have in the material world. So it starts where? With our thoughts. So it makes sense what the Buddha said in the Eightfold Path is after the right viewpoint, you're seeing things clearly, then you start formulating, hopefully, correct thoughts. And then, or right thoughts. From there, right thoughts and feelings lead to right speech, right action, and if you repeat right thoughts, right words, right actions over and over again, then you have right lifestyle or right livelihood. Okay? Now, let me just do this, make sure we're going. All right, now, let's dive a little deeper. When it comes to right thoughts, it's very, very important to understand that this is directly connected to the law of karma. You said, why? Well, if you initiate right thoughts, which leads to right speech and right action, that determines what we're planting, which will determine what comes back to us. Because most people think, oh, it's a harmless thought. Actually, it's not really a harmless thought because by itself, our thoughts already affect us, which affects how we think or how we act, which affect how we interact with other people. And then also, the thoughts we create also send signals to other people. For example, if you keep thinking like your son, your daughter is super smart, you're actually supporting that child so that when they're working, they're studying, those thought forms actually, hey, you're a smart kid. It will actually help them on their path. However, the opposite is also true. How many of us grew up with adults or parents or teachers who are not very careful with their words just because you failed one test? Ah, you dummy, how come you're not as smart as your brother, your sister? And what happened? Those wrong thoughts led to wrong speech. And so 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, you're trying to do something and you're trying to create a new business, you try to be successful in some endeavor. That little voice wakes up, or you hear it, not auditorily, but that memory of what happened, and it discouraged you. Make sense? So these thoughts can also be implanted. Hopefully not intentionally, nevertheless it affects us. So right thoughts involve what? Being aware of the thoughts we create, and it should be uplifting and not hurting. So that's part of the teaching of right thoughts. Another part of right thought is discernment. Some of us think that being a good spiritual practitioner, the number one requirement should be love and kindness. It might be for a lot of us, but a lot of the ancient schools, spiritual teachers would say, actually, like this one called the Arcane School, which is actually started by Alice Bailey, with the direction of the Tibetan teacher, Holy Master Dwal Kul. They have the rules or requirements for a spiritual disciple. Number one is not love, kindness, compassion, discernment, or what was called at that time discrimination. Not in a negative sense. It's the ability to discriminate or discern what is true, what is not true, what is fake news, what are facts, so that we will not be fooled. So I'll just go through it very quickly. In pranic healing, in our Hatha Yoga, Master Cho calls this practicing intelligent evaluation. Here goes. Do not believe anything to be true just because. Those are the magic words. Just because legends say so, or holy books say so, scriptures say so. You go, oh, you're touching on holy ground here. Wait. How many times have you heard people taking verses from the Bible, the Quran, or some holy book and twisting it to their need, to what they want to manipulate people? That's why we have to understand things in context. So right thought means being discerning, Okay, is this person using that verse just to manipulate people, or that's actually what the book says? Here's the way you do it. Look at the book, the chapter, and the verse in context. Don't just take that sentence. Otherwise, you can twist it. And also remember, in ancient times, when these words by the great teachers were being written down, they didn't say author, chapter, verse, and line, or the verse is line. They're written down, and then later on, they put them together. So you have to understand the context of it. What else? Confirms with tradition. I love this one. One time I was talking to my teacher. I said, Master, this yogic technique, it's been done for thousands of years. Why are we changing it? Or why are we why are we changing? He goes, time for update. And I go. And he said, look, people's lifestyles were different thousands of years ago. The chakra conditions were different. So the spiritual practices then and the spiritual practices now cannot be identical. You have to adapt it to people's condition these days. Make sense? A simple example would be this. The traditional way of awakening the Kundalini energy, which a lot of you have studied, that force at the bottom of the spine that goes up, that sensitizes our brain and nervous system to register those spiritual signals coming down from the higher world, from our higher soul to from our teachers. The traditional way of doing it is stimulating the lower centers and make it go up. Now look at it this way. Your lower centers, your basic is in charge of survival. Sex chakra is what? Procreation and sex drive. Navel is power. Solar plexus is love for myself. Right? Love for oneself. Heart is love for others. Throat is knowledge. This is will. You have clairvoyance. You have spirituality. If you start from the bottom, it will amplify all the lower nature first. Lower nature qualities. And then it goes into love and compassion, care for others, knowledge, and spirituality. That's why a lot of people have difficulty on their spiritual path initially, because you're stimulating the lower centers first. Now, the modern adaptation, my teacher explained is, no, you reverse the process. You activate the upper chakras first, bring the spiritual energy down to purify the upper centers and awaken them before the lower centers. So by the time it awakens that Kundalini force, it's going up to a pipeline, through a pipeline that has been pre-cleaned. And you're awakening the higher nature before the lower nature. So I said, if that's the case, the technique was wrong. I said, no. The original technique of awakening from the bottom up is safe in ancient times because their chakra conditions were different than it is now. Make sense? Update. You're not changing tradition, you're adapting the spiritual teachings to the modern person. Make sense? Okay. What else? Causes a sensation. Just because it's popular doesn't make it right. So you have to discern what's going on. Is this just a fad? Are people believing it? It's just because, just because people are taking this particular drug or herb doesn't mean you should do it. We have to discern. We have to use our mind, right thinking. Let's just go through some of these. I love this one. Don't believe it just because an authority said so. That's where blind faith happens, right? That's why the Buddha said, don't believe it just because I said so. Now you talk about an enlightened being. The chakras bigger than the country. The aura bigger than the planet. Somebody that spiritual advance would say, don't believe it just because I said it. What is the lesson? No blind belief. That's why he said, any belief that we accept to be true without personal verification or through personal experience, through analysis, is what you call superstition. They go, oh, you're being too cynical. Where does faith comes in? You already know this. I've always said this. Confucius said, wherever you go, go with all your heart, right? But bring your brain with you. Otherwise, you will be fooled. Right thinking means not being gullible. You question everything. Of course, how you question makes a difference. Like my teacher used to say, you're allowed to question everything, but question everything politely. That's why I always say, just last week, I was in class, last 2 weeks. I would tell all our students, I say, look, you will not hear me say, just trust me. Analyze the teachings, experiment with it, make your own conclusion. That's what my teacher always says. Practice intelligent evaluation. That comes with what? Right thinking. All right? Now, what else? Thoughts are the seeds we harvest with our speech and action. So if we constantly guard our thoughts, it will determine what comes out of our mouth and our actions. Now, the easy way to do it is, what's done in a lot of spiritual or Buddhist teachings is, when you're thinking of something, question it. Here's how you do it. What am I thinking right now? I'm thinking of buying this object, whatever it is. I'm buying this dress, this shirt, this car. Okay? That's the thought. Next question. Why am I thinking of this thought? The fact that you're questioning it allows you to step away and observe the thought, which leads to your ability to control it. You go, oh, why am I thinking of this new car? Oh, because I saw the commercial, I saw a friend drive it. So that's why. Now, next question is, do I need one? No, my car's perfectly fine. Do I need the extra expense? Not really. Do I like it? Okay, I like it, but is it really feasible? Is it practical? So what happens? As soon as you are able to question the thought, you now have the power to decide to continue with it or not. Then you go, my car is fine. Oh, it's a nice car. That's that. Done. It loses control over you. Which leads to the next question. What should be the next thought? Next thought should be, don't think about it anymore. Think of what is important in your life. See? What is the thought? Why are you thinking it? What should be the next thought? Or what could be the next thought be? Right then you regain control. That goes with feelings. Same thing. Because oftentimes thoughts and feelings are connected. Make sense? You go, oh, that's so boring. Or you go, that's too much work. Well, that separates the people who are able to regulate and control their lives and the ones who don't. The ability to observe, the ability to control the thinking process. Okay. Next one is right speech. Sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times when I'm flying in the plane, some people, they're not aware of how loud their voices are. So in the plane, there's times when people talk for hours. And, of course, thank God for noise-canceling headphones, right? But sometimes they go, let me just observe. Keyword, observe. They talk for hours and they're talking about nothing substantial. Hey, how's life? How's this? And they talk about, some actor or actress's life, who divorced who, or, they have a brother or a sister who is not happy with their job. And, I understand it's good to talk about stuff, but by the time they're done, even listening for 5 minutes, I'm going, it's not uplifting. It's not helping them. It's making them more negative. And they sit there and all they do is criticize. That guy, he's no good. He's this and that. And I'm thinking, there's nothing like, yeah, he's going through a difficult time. I wonder what's a way for me to help that person. Just like mouth moving air. That's why my teacher says, avoid useless conversations. I have shared this with a lot of you before. Oftentimes I go to a family party with the family, and then I come home, my wife goes, what's wrong with you? I go, what do you mean? You can talk on stage for hours and days without end. You just talk for the entire time, teach. You go to a family party, you barely say anything. I go, because I've gone to a few of them, and some of them are just moving air in between food and mouth. It's not really substantial. So I just say, hi, hello, how are your kids? How's everything? And some of the conversations are just taking up time, no substance. So I just say what I need to say, and then in between you stay quiet and enjoy the food. That's how you keep your consciousness clean. Otherwise, this example I always use. Okay, what actor or actress, who's marrying who, who's having an affair with who, and so on and so on. I go, who cares? That doesn't affect my life. So why should I fill my consciousness with useless stuff? Then you complain, I can't think. Well, of course, these thoughts and emotions are like clouds that what? Hinder our ability to see clearly. That's part of what? Right thinking, right speech. What else? Avoid gossiping. Gossiping hurts other people's relationships because we muddy people's minds about someone else. Karmically, it comes back and affects our relationships. What else? Right speech also means knowing when to stay silent. That has many, many levels, and we already shared this with you. Silence gives you the ability to go into stillness. Stillness gives you the ability to know who you are and experience expansion. And oftentimes people cannot stand it when it's silent. You know why? Okay, let me give you an example. Some people, when it's quiet, it's so quiet. They have to turn the radio, the TV, there's always have to be something. You know why? It's to drown the inner noise. So when everything's off, they go, so they have to have something louder. So the test would be shut everything off and be quiet for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What happens? If you notice there's too many thoughts, then you know what to fix. And the way to fix it is not make something louder outside, but to do your meditation, do your practice, observe these thoughts, get rid of what's not important, so you get to control your consciousness. Silence is very important. Silence leads to stillness. Stillness leads to realization and expansion. Okay. So, right thoughts, right speech. You already know this. We've covered this many, many times. Before we say something, first question, is it true? Next, is it necessary? Next question, is it kind? So, example we always use. You look at someone's outfit. Number one, is it true that it's ugly? If it is, next, is it necessary for me to say so? If not, that could be just my opinion, doesn't affect anyone. But what if you're going to bring your partner to an important event and you notice, that's not exactly the correct outfit. You might be ridiculed or it might look bad. So it's necessary for you to say something. So the question is, do you say, hey, honey, that is ugly? Or you can say, it might not be appropriate because we have certain people there that are dressed a certain way. And by the way you dress, it might be good for this occasion, but not that. Is there a way to say it kindly and uplifting? If there is, do it. Now, if there's absolutely no way to do it because that person is just, I'm going to wear this, you go, look, I don't want you to be ridiculed, but that really is not appropriate. Instead of saying, hey, honey, that is the ugliest thing in the world, you should burn it. So just go into this very simple test. Is it true? Is it necessary to say something? Is it kind? If not, is there a way of doing it kindly? Just that. Right action. Avoid unnecessary injury. You go, is there such a thing as necessary? Yeah, if you need to protect yourself, because there's also the sin of inaction. And the example I always use, because when I taught in El Paso, Texas, a number of the people in the class were servicemen and women because, they're soldiers or in the military because where we're teaching, there's a big army post or army base, as they call it. And so they ask, you talk about loving kindness and non-injury. Well, how about us? That's our job. Or you have somebody in law enforcement, like a policeman, policewoman. Are you saying that if there's a criminal, they shouldn't do anything? That's why I remember many, many years ago, I asked my teacher that question. And the story, you've heard me say it so many times, whether it's true or not, but it illustrates a very, very important lesson. Number one. Well, not number one. Here's how the story went. You have two samurais chasing a bad guy. And normally when they reach the bad guy, they don't like, hey, capture you, bring you back to... No, they just kill him. And so the first guy caught up with the bad guy, and he was about to kill him. And the bad guy, spat on his face. The samurai was about to kill him, put the sword down, walked away. Of course, the bad guy got away. And the second samurai finally got there. I guess he's a slow guy. Finally got there. He told the first guy, said, hey, we've been looking for, Japan's most wanted. You had him. Why did you let him go? The first samurai said, I kill out of obligation. But when he spat in my face, I realized I would have enjoyed killing him because he spat in my face. I don't do that. I only kill out. So I put my sword away and walked away. Again, whether that story is true or not, it illustrates a point. If you need to have physical harm done on someone, it has to be necessary, not because you enjoy it. So the timing and the dosage is very important. Same thing if you're a parent, right? If your children misbehave, you might have to create some form of injury, like I'm not gonna let you use your mobile phone for a few days, and for them it's like not because you enjoy it, because they did something bad for them to learn the lesson. But if you enjoy seeing them suffer, there's a big problem. Make sense? So avoid unnecessary physical harm or violence. Practice kindness, and a form of right action obviously is doing service and charity and helping others. Now, a part of right thoughts, right speech, right action is also understanding, and this is what the Lord Krishna said, a good person is not completely good, a bad person is not completely bad. In other words, people make mistakes, bad people also have the ability to be good. And right speech, right thoughts, right action also involves forgiveness. Now, you've heard me say this many times. One of the deepest lessons my teacher taught us was differentiate between inner forgiveness and outer forgiveness. Inner forgiveness is for all, whatever the offense. You and I are souls who are learning and will make mistakes. So when somebody hurt us, spiritually, I forgive you. That's inner forgiveness. Outer forgiveness, maybe yes, maybe no. So I forgive you, but I might have to go, but I'm still going to get a restraining order, or I have to sue you. Otherwise, you don't realize what you did was wrong, and you could hurt other people. But I do it just as needed, so externally, there's order and boundaries. Internally, I can sleep at night. The reason most people don't want to forgive, because they mix the two together. They don't realize this inner and outer forgiveness. So when somebody's hurt you, think about it. It's part of the soul's evolution to learn lessons, and you can make mistakes. So somebody hurt you, okay, spiritually I forgive you, but externally, I'm going to show you it's not okay. You separate the two, you have inner peace, you can sleep at night, and still maintain order. That's part of what? Right thought, right speech, and right appropriate action. Now, another thing to really understand about the Buddha's teachings is something like this. When you have right thoughts, right speech, right action over and over again, it leads to right livelihood. So repeated thoughts, speech, and actions manifest as a habit, right? Think about it. If you constantly think the right way, talk the right way, act the right way, you do this over and over again, it develops into a habit, a good habit. And wrong thoughts, wrong speech, wrong action over and over again is wrong habits or bad habits. Repeated habits manifest as virtues. Repeated bad habits manifest as vices, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, which manifests as a lifestyle. So if a person is full of virtues, they're very virtuous in what they do, then that's right lifestyle. If they constantly hurt people, they constantly think bad ways, have bad words, cursing everybody left and right, that's their habit, then that's wrong lifestyle. So it all starts with the thoughts that leads to how we talk, how we act. You do that over and over again, it becomes habits. Good habits manifest as virtues. Bad habits manifest as vices. You do that over again, that will determine what our lifestyle is. Now, the most important thing to remember is this. When the soul is in control, the I am is in control, it will control how we think, how we talk, and how we act. So, when the soul is in control, higher probability will have right lifestyle. When the soul is not in control, the body, the emotions, and thoughts are in control because it's being affected by circumstances. That manifests as wrong lifestyle and wrong livelihood. So, again, it all goes back to who am I? Most people's identity, unless they dive into it and really study it, their identity is oftentimes their life experiences, the emotions, the thoughts, when in reality, their true identity is I am the soul that decides what thoughts, feelings, and actions and words that I use. So I control how I respond to the environment. And the example we always use, and I use this in the 7-day purification, is the soul is like the charioteer. And you have 3 horses. One of the horses is the body. One of the horses is the emotional body. One of them is the mental body. Until they are trained, they'll take the chariot everywhere, right? But once they're trained, they go in where you want them to go. The reins is like the spiritual cord, the spiritual connection. So the soul controls the body, the emotions, and thoughts. If one wants to go somewhere, you rein him in. The emotions want to go somewhere, you bring him in. The horse does not control the charioteer, it's the other way around. So as we do our meditation and spiritual practice over and over and over again, especially during Wesak festival, we realize I'm the soul that's meditating. I purify my thoughts, my emotions, and my body. So I remember who I am. With so much spiritual energy coming in, I can use that power to control my body, my emotions, and thoughts, to have right thoughts, right speech, right action, which lead to right livelihood and right interaction with the world. That's how the teachings wake us up. That's why the Buddha said, I am awake. That's it. Very simple teaching. So, this concludes part 2 of the Eightfold Path. Again, if you want to, Friday, California time, we still have the 7-day purification open. You can still join us for the full lecture, which is 7 days. It's all recorded, so you can go back. After the event, it's all recorded. You can go back, study it. And then if you want to join the healings, those are also, afterwards is recorded. So when you press play, be super receptive. We guide you through the healing. All right, so the links are down here. You're welcome to join us if you still want to. And then after Friday, we're closing it. Okay, now, if you can't, we're still going to be on Monday, for part 3, which is, we'll cover right exertion or spiritual effort, right awareness and memory. And the third one is, the 8th one, so 6, 7, 8 is right concentration and right oneness. And then we'll talk a little more about the Wesak festival. Okay, namaste everyone. Let's give thanks to the Divine Supreme God, Divine Father, Mother, thank you. To all the spiritual elders, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, spiritual helpers. To my teacher, Master Chokok Sui Mahaguju Mailing, to the Lord Christ, to the Lord Buddha, thank you. In full faith, and so it is. Okay, we'll see you for part 3. Namaste, you guys take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.